before we actually open the meeting up, Wiley Williams, I believe, would like to make a few comments. Wiley?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would. I'd like to say this special meeting is being convened at the request of Mayor David Holt following a series of tweets and online reports critical that there was some miscommunication about the special trust meeting held on March 31st of this year, and that meeting may have been illegally held. The special March 31st, 2020 meeting was not illegally held in the opinion of this office, and the issue arose from an error made by city staff in revising an unofficial electronic calendar maintained by the city clerk's office that was never intended to be used as the official site for meeting notifications. When staff modified the calendar, the entry canceling the regular trust meeting scheduled for 2 p.m. on March 31st, 2020 was correctly entered, but the special meeting announcement held on the same date, but at 3 o'clock p.m. was not entered onto the calendar, leading to confusion to those who unfortunately use the calendar as their source of meeting notification when it is not and was never intended to be. The special trust meeting called for March 31st at 3 o'clock p.m. was properly posted on the city's website and was properly posted on the doors to City Hall as a telephonic meeting. The Municipal Counselor's Office has reviewed the process and finds it to be fully in compliance with the Oklahoma Open Meetings Act, as recently amended by the legislature to deal with problems arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. However, because of the urgent issues addressed in the March 31st special trust meeting, in particular, the Small Business Continuity Program, the mayor has requested that we call another special meeting to demonstrate our intent to always comply with the Open Meetings Act, to placate those who complained about the confusion caused by the entries on the city clerk's unofficial calendar, and to once more approve the actions taken on March 31st, 2020. Further, in an effort to avoid any future confusion, the city clerk has removed the unofficial calendar from the website. The public can still access the official meeting schedule on the okc.gov website as it has in the past. We humbly apologize for any unintended confusion caused by the calendar entries.
Thank you, Wiley, for those comments. At this time, I'd like to call on Kathy O'Connor to make a few comments herself. Kathy?
Kathy may need to push *6.
I can read it, Mr. Chairman. This is Frances.
All right, if that's okay, Frances Darcy will read what Kathy was going to talk. Go ahead, Frances.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, this is Kathy. I did *6 and it didn't unmute me, so I think I'm unmuted now. Okay, trustees, manager, secretary, and municipal counselor, please remain unmuted during the meeting. Other participants and staff are to remain on mute until recognized by the manager or chairman. Mute and unmute your phone using *6. If the teleconference is disconnected at any time during the meeting shall be stopped and reconvened once the audio connection is restored. If communication is unable to be restored within 15 minutes, and if communications cannot be restored, the meeting will reconvene on April 13th, 2020 at 5 p.m. by teleconference. Anyone wishing to speak about an item or to be included in the citizens to be heard portion at the end of the meeting should call 405-297-2245. please submit your request now to avoid receipt of your request after the item has been considered. The agenda and the attachments are available online at okc.gov.
Thank you, Kathy. At this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order, and I'd like to ask the secretary to call the roll.
Chairman McAtee,
Present?
Rhonda Hooper,
Present.
Jim Ross,
Present.
Todd Stone,
Here.
Lynn Pickens.
Present.
Okay, all quorum is present, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Francis. Do you have some comments that you'd like to make at this time?
No, just if anyone requests to speak, if they please, you can email the city clerk at cityclerk@okc.gov. That's all I have.
Thank you, Francis. At this time, I would like to go through the items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is to approve the minutes of the February 26th, 2020 meeting of the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust. I'll take a motion in a second if I could get one, please.
This is Hooper, and I move the agenda item.
Second.
I have a motion in a second. Is any questions or comments wanted to be made? Seeing none, Francis, would you call the roll, please?
McAtee,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next up on the agenda, I'd like to ratify the OCEDT claims. You've got the claims there. What are the desires of the trustees?
Ross, move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments? Hearing none, call the roll, please, Madam Secretary.
McAtee,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Next are the items that need individual attention. If you read the first item, Kathy, please.
The first item is to grant a quick claim deed to the Central Oklahoma Transportation and Parking Authority for real property north of Northwest 4th Street between Broadway Avenue and Robinson Avenue. This property was acquired from Oklahoma Gas and Electric and is being used to construct a new parking garage, and part of it will be used for private development. The property was split in two last December, and now that the parking garage is under construction, the property needs to be conveyed to COTFA for that project. Move approval. This is Pickens.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, please cast your votes. Madam, call the roll, please.
McAtee,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Motion approved unanimously.
Next up is a joint resolution. Kathy, if you'd read the resolution, please, ma'am.
Okay. A joint resolution of the City of Oklahoma City and the Economic Development Trust approving an allocation in an amount not to exceed $5,500,000 from the general obligation limited tax bond proceeds and/or investment proceeds to provide funding for the Oklahoma City Small Business Continuity Fund to be used as the funding source for the Small Business Continuity Program, consisting of 3 unique programs. Number 1, a small business incentive program to be supported with an allocation in the amount of $1,500,000 to be used for providing economic development and assistance or incentives to qualifying small and neighborhood businesses dealing with the adverse impacts and business disruption arising from the COVID-19 pandemic, or the voluntary or mandated business closures and requiring said incentives to be used for the purpose of retaining existing employees. Number 2, the technical assistance program to be supported with an allocation in the amount of $500,000 to be used for funding a technical assistance program consisting of technical experts engaged to provide guidance to local small businesses dealing with the adverse impact and business disruption arising from the COVID-19 pandemic or the voluntary or mandated business closures. And number 3, a small business loan program supported with an allocation not to exceed $3 million, provided that $1,500,000 of said allocation is designated and allocated for no or low interest forgivable loans to small businesses dealing with the adverse impact and business disruption arising from the COVID-19 pandemic or the voluntary or mandated business closures, and providing that $1,500,000 be designated and allocated for low interest loans to small businesses dealing with the adverse impact and business closures, requiring that said small business loans are to be used primarily for the retainage of existing employees, requiring to the fullest extent possible that 25% of said loans and incentive payments be distributed to businesses in disadvantaged business census tracts or in eligible low to moderate income census tracts, approving an allocation in an amount not to exceed $500,000 for internal and external administrative costs, waiving conflicting provisions of the strategic investment policy, including provisions which purport to restrict the use of GOLP funds to job creation activities, providing for the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust to administer the Small Business Continuity Program. I just lost my place. In a manner consistent with this resolution due to the critical and emergent impact of the voluntary and mandated business closures. And let's see. Waiving the 2 public hearing requirement for allocation of general obligation limited tax bond funds, directing the city manager to develop the Small Business Continuity Program consistent with the provisions of this resolution, authorizing the city/general manager and city staff to implement and administer the Small Business Continuity Program upon review and approval of said program terms by the mayor, city manager, and municipal councilor's office for consistency with this resolution, and subject to later ratification and approval by the Oklahoma City Economic Development Trust as previously designated entity to administer the general obligation limited tax bond funds, and authorizing the general manager to reallocate the approved allocations and funding among the 3 different programs as needed to maximize the economic and community development benefits of the program, provided, however, there shall be no increase in funding for the administrative costs without prior trust approval. Do you want me to provide any other explanation besides that? I'll be glad to.
Do you have any? Yes, go ahead if you'd like to make us a few more comments.
The only thing I would add is that we, following approval of the program by council, we did develop an application process, and there is a website where we are accepting applications at this time. The web address is okcsmallbizhelp.com. And we have begun to get quite a few applications, and we have begun the process to review those.
Thank you very much. Before we move on, Francis, I believe there's a citizen that has signed up to be heard. Is that correct?
Yes, John Pettis has signed up to speak.
Mr. Pettis, if you come forward, please, and keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'd like to hear what you've got to say, sir.
Mr. Pettis, if you would click star 6 to unmute your phone.
Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
Mr. Pettis.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the
If
board.
you give your name and address, if you'd start with your name and
Okay.
address, please, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. John Pettis, Pettis, 1332 Northeast 54th Street, Oklahoma City, 73111, 405-641-7566.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I just have a few questions to ask for clarification, and I think Ms. O'Connor will be able to answer them fairly quickly. Number one, will the deadline for applications be extended?
Right now, our intention is to close the acceptance of applications on April 17th. If we feel like we haven't received as many applications as we could have by that date, we may extend it, but that'll be up to the city manager.
Okay. Number two, if item number 8G on the council agenda tomorrow is approved, will it be applied to this program? And 8G deals with forbearance.
Item AG on the council agenda tomorrow has to do with tax increment financing loans.
No. The number 8G.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think it said AG. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Let me find 8G.
Perhaps I should address that.
No, yeah, that is the temporary forbearance of tax increment financing loans. So and other community development block grant loans, Section 108 loans, home fund loans. It does not apply to this program, but it is another response that the city is undertaking to address some of the issues arising from the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the average turnaround for these applications will be?
For the small business continuity program?
Yes, for the loan.
Okay.
Yeah, for the loan approval.
Oh, well, so the loans are all being underwritten by a local bank, but we expect to begin making disbursements, I would say, at the end of April.
Okay. Okay, those were the questions that I have. I appreciate those answers, and I'd like to commend the city clerk's office and staff for making this access to the general public very easy to participate in. So thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pettis. Thank you for taking the time to share your comments and questions with us. Francis, do we have anybody else who has signed up at this time?
No, sir, we do not.
All right, having nobody else to sign up at this time, what is the desires of the trustees with respect to this item that Kathy has read and discussed?
Move the item. Yeah, this is Jim Roth. I would second the motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? Again, hearing none, Madam Clerk, if you would call the roll.
McAtee,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Roth,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Motion approved unanimously.
Thank you, ma'am. Kathy, if you read the next item on the agenda for us, please.
Okay, let me get there. Receive presentation materials on the Marcus Garvey Apartments Economic Development Project, Harmony Project, and request staff to draft a memorandum of agreement with One Red Oak LLC for the allocation approved by City Council. And this is for an allocation of TIF funds in the amount of $200,000 and the amount of GOLT bond funds for affordable housing in the amount of $1 million. These are 40 units of affordable housing in Northeast Oklahoma City.
Thank you, ma'am. You all received a presentation on this a week or so ago. What is the desire of the trustees?
I'll move approval. Jim Roth.
Thank you, Jim.
Hooper second.
Cooper second. Any comments or questions from any of the trustees? Hearing none, Madam Secretary, if you'd call the roll, please.
McAtee,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Roth,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Approved unanimously.
Thank you. I've had a little communications problem here, and I've lost my agenda temporarily. Next item on the agenda was what? The general manager's reports?
No, it's an item to receive presentation materials on the Myriad Gardens Crystal Bridge project.
Yes. To receive the data on the Myriad Gardens project. Would you read the detail, please, Kathy?
Sure. It's a presentation on the Myriad Gardens Crystal Bridge project and requesting staff to draft a memorandum of agreement with the Myriad Gardens Foundation within the allocation approved by City Council. So this is an allocation of tax increment financing dollars in the amount of $5,958,750. Some of that money is coming from the downtown MAPS TIF and the Devon headquarters TIF.
Thank you, Kathy. You've heard the item. What's the desires of the trustees?
I'd move the item for approval.
Second. Pickens.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments or questions? I have not been told anybody from any citizens wishes to be heard on this. Is that correct, Francis?
Yes, sir.
Having no response from anybody then, Madam Secretary, if you call the roll, please.
McAtee,
Yes.
Hooper,
Yes.
Roth,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Motion was approved unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next up is what? The general manager's reports?
No, it is the presentation materials for the Oklahoma City Economic Development Foundation. So this is the report from the Greater Oklahoma City Chamber, the quarterly report.
The report from the chamber. Would you like to make any comments, Kathy?
No, I don't have any comments other than what's in the materials in the packet.
Is there anybody from the chamber here?
I don't want to take the chamber's thunder.
Any chamber comments? What action is required here, Francis?
A motion to receive.
I'll entertain a motion to receive, please.
This is Hooper. Receive.
Larry, this is Jeff. If you did have some questions, I'm happy to answer them. Sorry. I was having trouble unmuting.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, happy to
Any
answer any questions.
I'll second the approval.
We have a motion and a second to receive the report. Any comments or questions? Again, hearing none, please call the roll.
McAtee,
Yes?
Hooper,
Yes.
Ross,
Yes.
Stone,
Aye.
Pickens.
Yes.
Approved unanimously.
Now we're ready for any comments from any of the trustees.
No, now it's the general manager's report.
Okay. Well, I need action on the general manager's report.
No, Mr. Chairman, we do not need any action on the general manager report.
That's what I thought. I thought I was being set up there. Thank you.
Okay, now we're
All right.
on comments. Yeah.
Any comments from the trustees?
Mr. Chairman, just a word of thanks. This is Jim Roth. Again, thanks to the staff for making all of these challenging times work as smooth as possible. Very much appreciate it. To the leadership, the city manager, to the mayor, to Kathy and others that have helped make these types of response programs possible. It just really makes me proud of the city and happy to be a small part of it. So just wanted to offer a word of thanks across the board. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, sir. Any other trustees like to make any comments? Any staff wishing to any comments or questions? Any citizens wishing to be heard or to make any comments? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you for your participation and help.